Welcome to Leader Talk. My name is SEAC retired John Wayne Troxell, and welcome to my show where I discuss critical issues affecting our nation, some leadership stuff, and among other things. Hey, first and foremost, I want to give a shout out to all of our followers out there and everyone that tunes in for our episodes. And I encourage you to please go on and subscribe to our show. Like us if you think this is good content. And again, we appreciate all our followers and those that tune in for our episodes. On today's episode, it's election season. And today I'm going to talk about voting. Something that is near and dear to every American citizen's heart, and probably the most important right afforded to American citizens. Now, a figure that is kind of startling is that only about 66% of eligible American citizens actually exercise their right to vote. And again, I mean, it's a right, to vote. Doesn't mean you have to, but it's a little concerning because that's about 33% of the votes that could sway an election that are left on the table that aren't used. And I hear it all the time when people, why should I vote? Well, as I described, it's the most important right, arguably with your First Amendment rights, that an American citizen has. And this is not a privilege. It is a right. Just like the First Amendment is a right. You hear people out there all the time, some politicians that say, some of these things are a privilege. They are not a privilege. It is an inherent right of every American citizen as outlined in our Constitution. So that's a reason to vote. Another reason is, think about this. If there's a couple of candidates out there and you're just like, I just don't want to vote or whatever, well, you're leaving that vote on the table. And you are potentially giving an advantage to a candidate that you may not like. Because if you don't vote, all right, the vote for those two candidates is 0-0. If somebody else votes for someone you're not voting for, then that candidate, someone you don't like, is already up 1-0. And so on and so on. So some people may not think that it's important to vote and that your vote is very insignificant. But if every American citizen thought like that, we would have challenges with our election process. So please get out there and vote. And the bottom line is, it's a civic duty of every American citizen. It's your civic duty. You owe it to your nation to be part of this electoral process. So get out there and vote. I will tell you that I spent 38 years in the military, and sometimes I had to do absentee ballots when I was overseas in combat or whatever. And I've not always been able to vote in person, but I make it a point to always to exercise that right of mine to vote. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to outline some reasons on why I vote. But before we do that, let's hear from our sponsors at Downrange Supplements.
Downrange Supplements. As the brand of the troops, we produce only the highest quality supplements conducive to mission effectiveness. Whether it's our fully dosed pre-workout, recovery and rehydration, or Mermite protein, it's time to continually improve your fighting position with Downrange Supplements. Go to www.downrangesups.com today and take your training to the next level.
Hey folks, welcome back to Leader Talk. I'm SEAC retired John Wayne Troxell. Today we're talking about voting. And on this segment, I want to talk to you about some important reasons I believe in and my personal reasons on why I vote. Most importantly for me is I think about the future of our nation and how it's going to impact my grandchildren and my grandchildren's children and their children's children. That's why I am a firm believer and staunch supporter in a candidate that has strong foreign policy. How do we deal with other nations? How do we make sure we protect the sovereign rights of Americans abroad and around the world? How do we make sure that our interests, U.S. interests, are safe overseas? So foreign policy is important to me. The other thing is national security. How strong is our military? What candidate will provide the best opportunity for our military to continue to build on competitive advantages on the air, ground, sea, in space, in the cyber domain, other areas, how to build competitive advantages that will continue to be a deterrent to any nation state or non-state actor to not attempt to attack the United States. That's important to me. Homeland defense is another thing that's very important to me. How strong is our federal, state, and local law enforcement and those that are tasked with being first responders for incidents and also for protecting our homeland and our borders? The other thing is a strong border. Okay, in order for us to be a sovereign nation, we have to have strong border policy that prevents people from entering our country illegally. And also trying to take on some of the inherent rights for American citizens and trying to make them their own when they are not an American citizen. Strong borders are important to me. But then also the normal domestic stuff, like the economy, the price of groceries, taxes. I will tell you, a guy that's a small business owner like me and is doing pretty well, that the IRS is the number one thing I have to deal with quarterly and make sure that I pay my taxes. So the candidate that can assist in lowering the tax that I have to pay, as someone that was not built into or born into money or economic prosperity, it's something that I had to deal with as starting as a private in the United States Army, staying for 38 years, and then propelling myself to compete in the corporate world. That kind of stuff is important to me. So those are tangible things that I focus on. And regardless of any of the characteristics of the candidates, I vote for the candidate that will give me the best opportunity to go after those things that I talked about in terms of foreign policy, national security, homeland defense, strong border, economy, things like that. And I don't get caught up in characteristics and say, I'm going to vote for this person because they have this certain characteristic, or they have this certain characteristic, or they have this certain thing going for them, or whatever. In Troxell's opinion, that's a wasted vote because it's a virtue signal more than it is something that is tangible about the election process and what the best candidate can do. Now, in the end, as I said in the first segment, an American citizen who has that inherent right to vote, they can vote for whoever they want to. But for Troxell, these are the tangible reasons on why I vote and why I think it's important for others to vote out there. So get out there and vote, and vote on the things that are important to you. And I will tell you that a lot of Americans are dealing with higher grocery prices, higher gas, higher taxes, and things like that. Who's the best candidate to get after that stuff? You got to figure that out. Do your research, figure out who the best candidate is, and vote. Do not vote just simply because the candidate possesses a certain characteristic that is attractive to you. Okay, we're going to take another break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about how to vote. But first, let's hear from our sponsors again at Downrange Supplements.
How you guys doing? I'm Colton Smith, and I'm announcing right now, Downrange Supplements is in your local commissary. If you're anywhere near a base and you have base access, get to the commissary and check out our pre-workout, our rehydration BCA formula, and our protein. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. It is the best in the market. And Listed 9 Fight Company, my brand, is partnered with Downrange Supplements for a reason. And I tell you, their products work. And also, don't forget, we kill suckers.
Hey folks, welcome back to Leader Talk. SEAC retired John Wayne Troxell here. We're talking about voting. And in this segment, we're talking about how to vote. Well, obviously, the most preferred way to vote is to be in person at a voting center in your area, where you live at and everything. That is probably the most trusted method, is to go in person and vote, but it's not the only one. You know, you can also vote by mail. I've done that before. You know, I'm a registered voter, and I received my ballot for my midterm elections, but also for the presidential and general elections. I received ballots in mail. Now, if I have the opportunity, I prefer to vote in person, but if I don't have that opportunity, then I vote by mail too. And then there's the absentee vote. Just because an American citizen does not live in this country does not mean that they don't have the right to vote. There are millions of Americans that live abroad, all over the world, that just, for whatever reason, business, family, or they just want to get out of the United States, that they live abroad. And then there's our military members who are assigned overseas, that are on duty or what have you, and they are not here to be able to go to a voting center or to vote by mail. They can still vote through an absentee vote. And in order to get an absentee vote, first you have to be a registered voter, and that absentee vote comes in the mail, and you mail it in, and it goes towards the election. But those are the three general ways to get out and vote. Now, people talk all the time about, if you do vote by mail and you do an absentee vote, that there's election interference. And I'm not going to say there hasn't been. I don't know for sure. But what I do have is faith in the system, and faith that our American elections are going to be protected to the utmost of our abilities, and that my vote is going to count. I don't have fear that my vote's not going to count. I have faith that it will count. And so, all of that aside, the bottom line is just get out and vote. Vote for the candidate, as I mentioned in segment 2, that you think is the best for reasons that will help you, your business, your family, or whatever. National security, other reasons like that I talked before. But the bottom line, get out and vote. That 33% of registered voters do not exercise their right to vote is disappointing to me. So please, do your civic duty and get out to vote. It means a lot, and it will mean something come November in the next election. Okay, before we get out of here, I want to give a warrior shout out. Now, I know this is a short episode and everything, but I've got a warrior shout out that I really want to give out today. And my warrior shout out goes to the Israeli Defense Forces. Recently, the IDF, we all know what happened last October 7th when they were attacked by Hamas, and 1,200 Israelis, innocent Israelis, were killed. And we also know the war that's gone on for almost a year now, and the tens of thousands of innocent Palestinians have been killed. Trust me, as a guy that's been on 5 different combat tours, no one is more sensitive to civilian casualties than I am. But the bottom line, Israel is a sovereign nation, and they were attacked. And they are going to, by any means necessary, do what they have to do to defeat the lasting defeat of Hamas, the terrorist organization. And last week, the IDF conducted an operation where they had somehow interdicted these pagers and walkie-talkies that Hamas and Hezbollah, another proxy of Iran from based out of Lebanon that they were using because these terrorist organizations were so worried that the Israelis were able to eavesdrop on their cell phones and use them to do targeted operations. So they went to these pagers and walkie-talkies. And Israel did the true definition of what we were doing in 20 years of combat in Iraq and Afghanistan. And it was about what we did to defeat improvised explosive devices. But in this case, the Israelis were going after electronic devices that these terrorists were being used or using to conduct their business and potentially conduct attacks on Israel. And they did the three things that we did. They attacked the network, going after key leaders that were using these electronic devices. They were training the force, meaning training their troops on how to get after, especially those that get after the kind of intelligence that makes these electronic devices vulnerable. And last but not least, and ultimately, they defeated the devices. And how they did that, still under investigation, but it looks like somehow they interdicted shipments of pagers going in to Hamas. Somehow explosives were put in it. And in the end, when they rang up those pagers, they exploded. And severely hampering, wounding, and in some cases killing Hamas and Hezbollah terrorists. So my warrior shout out today goes to the Israeli Defense Forces for using or getting after asymmetric means to continue to defeat the enemy that attacked your sovereign country. And that's it for now. Thanks again for tuning in to Leader Talk. Like I said before, if you like what you see here, subscribe to our page, follow us. We're going to have more content coming in. Also, don't forget about my book, Surrender or Die, Reflections of a Combat Leader. You can find it on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, or you can go to my website, pmehard.com. God bless you all. We'll see you soon on another episode of Leader Talk. Boom.